Hello, YouTube viewers. Welcome to the History Enigma. Today we're delving into a fascinating chapter of military history, the untold story of the tunnel rats during the Vietnam War. These brave soldiers undertook one of the most perilous missions of the conflict. Let's dive into the history and accomplishments of the tunnel rats. During the Vietnam War, the Viet Cong utilized an extensive network of tunnels for strategic advantage. Tunnels were particularly useful in the insurgency, and a series of tunnel networks provided the Viet Cong with manufacturing, resupply, and planning space within easy striking distance of their targets. Few soldiers could fit into the tunnels and follow the guerrillas into their lairs. While ordinary soldiers occasionally went into the tunnels, the army recognized the need for a select group of experts to solve this unique problem. Aside from helicopter pilots and long-range reconnaissance patrols, few conventional, non-special operations soldiers would place themselves so consistently in danger in Vietnam. The American military needed a specialized force to tackle this hidden threat. Enter the tunnel rats, courageous soldiers who voluntarily took on the daunting task of exploring, clearing, and destroying enemy tunnels. The army initially had trouble figuring out how to deal with the tunnels. Bombs were ineffective. Even 750-pound bombs landing 50 yards away from a tunnel entrance had no effect on either the tunnel or the entrance. Attempts to smoke out Viet Cong with tear gas or smoke grenades failed in the larger networks. Dogs sent down could not avoid any booby traps. The average soldier sent down to explore an entrance usually failed to recognize the connection of surface tunnels to deeper networks, while hasty clearance often fell to the smallest soldier in an infantry squad or platoon. Asking them to go into deeper tunnels was generally counterproductive. Many casualties among these untrained soldiers came from accidents in the tunnels instead of enemy action. Captain Herbert Thornton, a chemical corps officer with the 1st Infantry Division responsible for contaminating the tunnels with chemical agents, created specialized teams to enter, clear, and exploit the tunnels in 1966. Deliberate tunnel clearance fell to this group of volunteer infantrymen, engineers, and chemical weapons expert. The tunnel rats were an eclectic group selected for unique characteristics. Most were short, most less than 5 feet 5 inches, with a slight, wiry build. The job also required a special kind of mental toughness. Crawling for hours, in claustrophobic darkness expecting mortal danger, could break down even the bravest men. The job also demanded lightning-quick reflexes and no hesitation. Confrontations with venomous snakes or Viet Cong often occurred at hand-to-hand range. Many tunnel rats avoided drinking, smoking, candy, and chewing gum because they feared it could dull their sense of smell and give away their position. Instead, they trained themselves and others to survive underground. Soldiers in tunnels had to travel light and abandon their technological advantages. Helmets, load-bearing equipment, and even water canteens might be too bulky to carry underground. Some tunnel rats even abandoned their uniform coat. Soldiers began entering with a pistol and flashlight, and the army later added a communications wire, compass, and bayonet to help them check for traps and communicate to the surface. Tunnel rats often carried a gas mask to protect against poison gas traps, but many decided to leave even that above ground. As the war went on and tunnel rats refined their techniques, most ended up taking less and less down into the tunnels. The tunnel rats underwent intense training to prepare for their hazardous missions. Training included navigating confined spaces, identifying booby traps, and dealing with the psychological stress of tunnel warfare. Armed with only pistols, knives, flashlights, and explosives, these soldiers were ready to face the unknown. Often, gaining entry to the tunnels was difficult as the doors were challenging to discover without careful search. The tunnels generally lacked electric lighting and cleverly hid ventilation to minimize traces. Most tunnels required painstaking exploration to uncover, and tunnel rats arrived on scene only after regular patrols had uncovered an entrance. Other times it was easy. In one instance, a soldier and his German shepherd were in the lead of a patrol when the dog suddenly stopped and sat. The patrol immediately stopped on alert. The dog had been trained to sniff out the enemy. Suddenly, the top of a well-hidden tunnel flew open, and a Viet Cong soldier jumped out holding grenades. He was immediately shot and killed. A tunnel rat went down in the tunnel and captured a high-ranking Viet Cong officer. Finding an entrance did not guarantee entry. Viet Cong often booby-trapped the doors or placed grenades in nearby trees to kill soldiers trying to gain entry to the tunnel systems. Once soldiers gained access to a tunnel system, tunnel rats had a difficult decision to make about their gas mask. The gas mask deadened sounds by making a soldier's breathing seem louder and restricted his sight. But most tunnel rats could not pull out and don their gas mask inside the tunnel should they encounter poison gas released by fleeing Viet Cong. By 1969, experienced tunnel rats would first roll a fragmentation grenade into the entrance, or blow the entrance open with explosives. The latter option also tended to solve the problem of booby-trapped doors, and both meant that the rat could at least enter the tunnel unopposed, which some rats preferred despite alerting anyone below to their presence. Once in the tunnel network, the real dangers began. Tunnels were dug to dissipate shock waves from explosions. This construction also obstructed soldiers' lines of sight. An ambush by the Viet Cong could be waiting around every bend. The tunnel system could be home to venomous snakes, whether living there or kept as traps by Viet Cong, or scorpions around every corner, or in any wall indentation or hidden ledge. Spiders, mosquitoes, and bats annoyed and distracted soldiers already on edge. Nature's obstacles are enough for modern cavers to deal with, but they were the tip of the iceberg for tunnel rats. The Viet Cong built booby traps in most of the tunnel systems. Tunnel rats could expect grenades, poison gas, punji snake traps, and tethered venomous snakes. None of these traps would have the audio or scent signature a tunnel rat could recognize from a gorilla waiting in ambush. As Harold Roper, a tunnel rat in the early days of 1966, recalled, "I felt more fear than I've ever come close to feeling before or since. There were only around 100 army tunnel rats in Vietnam, and most either died in the tunnels or in ambushes on the surface. This built a special culture among the tunnel rats, who ensured that no rat wounded, and most were at least once, or dead, was ever left inside a tunnel. The tunnel rats went above and beyond to avenge their injured or fallen comrades. Staff Sergeant Pedro Rejo Ruiz, a wiry Cuban immigrant who became known as the Human Probe, crawled through choking tear gas into a tunnel with a cratering charge to finish the job after the Viet Cong had wounded 2 other rats. The Viet Cong's tunnel complexes were marvels of engineering, with multiple levels, trapdoors, and booby traps designed to thwart any intruders. The tunnel rats had to contend with darkness, tight spaces, and the constant threat of ambushes, making their missions all the more challenging. The tunnel rats had to write a new set of tactics, techniques, and procedures for clearing tunnels. While typically only one tunnel rat could fit in the tunnel, occasionally a second rat would enter behind to help the lead rat, particularly when the lead rat was new. The rest of his unit provided security, and at least one other soldier always remained at the entrance. Many tunnel rats maintained communication with their partner, who recorded the tunnel rat's actions and attempted to sketch out the tunnel and any significant findings. When contact with Viet Cong soldiers was expected, many tunnel rats preferred to have nothing distracting them from the deadly game of hide-and-seek. Soldiers learned to never fire more than 3 shots before reloading, in order to keep Viet Cong from rushing them while they reloaded. Underground, the rats eventually switched to using red-lensed flashlights, since the Viet Cong only used white lights and candles. Upon leaving the tunnels, they whistled an agreed-upon tune so their muddy figure would not be mistaken for a Viet Cong guerrilla. While early tunnel rats entered the tunnels with a M1911 .45 caliber pistol, most found the standard sidearm unfit for the task. The .45 caliber round was too loud and the muzzle flash was too bright. If he needed to fire, using a 1911 denied a tunnel rat of 2 crucial senses for critical seconds. Some used silencers, some did not. Some carried shotguns and other revolvers. Soldiers learned what worked best in their area and with their techniques and stuck with them. Viet Cong in the tunnels rarely surrendered, so few tunnel rats wanted to experiment. The knife or bayonet was a perennial favorite. This simple blade was a bayonet probe, booby trap disarmor, snake dispatcher, and weapon in one hand that never jammed or malfunctioned. Once the tunnel rats had retrieved any information, equipment, or prisoners they could find, they set out to destroy the tunnel or deny its use to the Viet Cong in the future. The hard-packed, layered clay of the tunnels made such an operation very difficult. Early on, soldiers tried destroying the tunnels with conventional explosives, with mixed results. Collapsing tunnel entrances by igniting a mix of acetylene gas and oxygen with small charges worked well for more shallow tunnels. This method was too slow, inefficient, and cumbersome to use unless the area was completely secure. To deny tunnels, the rats filled deeper tunnels with riot control agents like a powdered form of tear gas while collapsing the entrances with explosives. Denial generally made the tunnels unlivable for between 2 to 6 months. These deliberate operations all took time, a commodity most commanders lacked, so the tunnel rats' search was often the most impactful part of an anti-tunnel operation. Once done with their mission, the rats either returned to base or took a helicopter to the next tunnel in their area of operations. The exact impact of the tunnel rats was sometimes difficult to determine, but the rats found and exploited things no one else did. According to a former Viet Cong officer, the tunnel rats eliminated over 12,000 guerrillas and captured many more. In a single operation in August 1968, the rats not only killed 3 Viet Cong, but captured 153 more. Most captured Viet Cong weapons and equipment were uncovered by the tunnel rats. During one operation, the tunnel rats found 6,000 pounds of rice and 40 pounds of salt in a 120-foot-long tunnel. Another underground complex covered 2,000 meters and yielded cameras, films, printing presses, and type, in addition to the usual cache of weapons and ammunition. One tunnel rat stumbled across a missing M48 tank the Viet Cong were using as a command center, and others routinely uncovered hidden artillery pieces and mortars. In 1970, tunnel rats uncovered a major signals intelligence node underground. Viet Cong codebreakers had been intercepting, decoding, and translating every transmission from the 1st and 25th Infantry Divisions. The sudden loss of information immediately made both divisions more effective and safer from an ambush. In addition to lists of spies passing information to the Viet Cong, the tunnel rats often uncovered maps, orders, and battle plans which helped salve more American lives. Soldiers sent down the tunnels disrupted the Viet Cong and found information their units could exploit. As the army improved its ability to process and use the information the tunnel rats provided, the tunnels became more dangerous than useful for the Viet Cong by the Tet Offensive and U.S. counteroffensive. The tunnel rats chose to go down into the enemy tunnels, without the benefits of modern technology, to deny the Viet Cong any sanctuary. Despite the challenges, the tunnel rats achieved significant success in neutralizing the Viet Cong's tunnel systems. Their efforts disrupted enemy operations, saved lives, and contributed to the overall success of American military strategy in Vietnam. And there you have it, the incredible history and accomplishments of the tunnel rats. Their bravery and sacrifice deserve recognition, and their story is a testament to the human spirit's resilience in the face of adversity. If you enjoyed this video, enjoy another one of our YouTube videos, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Thanks for joining us on the History Enigma, and until next time, stay curious.